and welcome to Martinis Eco and Country Bites. Tonight, I have a guest going to be joining me that wants to discuss some pretty horrifying information that's starting to come out from Victoria. I'm going to give you a bit of a preview here as to what we're going to be discussing. And it's the new Emergency Services Volunteer Firefighters levy. And it's going to be hitting everyone throughout Victoria at very different levels. I would like to welcome someone who has been on Edge Radio Australia and my segment a number of times, someone who I definitely regard as a brother in arms as well as a friend. I would like to now welcome Wade from Billboard Vitalian. Hello, Wade.
G'day there, Martine, and g'day to everybody who's watching.
There is a lot of people here, not just in West Australia, but all throughout Australia, and people from overseas that now follow Edge Radio Australia that are very concerned to see what's happening. And I think that I've just put up an image here that I'm obviously going to ask you to elaborate more on. I had many people message me all weekend, and I've worked back-to-back days. So it's been a bit of a challenge for me to be able to really get on top of this fast. I worked all day today, unfortunately. So that's why we're sort of jumping on this now to see if we can get this nutted out and explained to everyday people about what, and I've introduced it as the Emergency Services Volunteer Firefighters Levy. Is that correct?
It's the Emergency Services and Volunteer Fund. They call it a fund, and that's just a clever way to try and cover up that this is in fact another tax.
Yeah,
so
of course.
It's all the smoke and mirrors that goes along with how the government works and how disgusting and dishonest these bunch of cretins are.
This is what I've just introduced here, which is what happened last Friday. I think it was last Thursday night it went through. Is that correct? It was.
That's it, yes.
So, yeah, last Thursday night, the Victorian government pushed through a last-minute deal with crossbenchers to put through this levy or this tax, let's call it a tax, and to take more money off hardworking Aussies, and especially people don't comprehend if they haven't been involved in this, but volunteer firefighters that are farmers as well. So they go and protect other people's farms while maybe risking losing their own. And this is the thing that I have heard time and time again. I mean, I grew up with this in my country town. I've seen so much of this in my time. Wade, let's break this down for people that don't really understand what this is and what they're disguising this fund for when it's actually another tax grab, and who is going to be the one who's going to be the collection agency. Because when we start joining those dots, then we start to see that not only is this an overreach, but it's an absolute scam.
So yes, absolutely. It's part of what I call in this region the government's war on farmers. And I would expand that to say it's actually the government's war on every Australian. So in terms of, as I understand it, these pieces of filth in the Victorian Parliament make some sort of dodgy law like this. They call it a fund, but it's actually a rip-off tax. And then they hand that down to the Shire councils to collect. So, and as I understand it, I could be corrected because it's still, in the early stages, so we're trying to come up to speed with what's going on. It will be put in as just revenue. If somebody doesn't pay, as I understand it, it will be entered into the ledger with the councils as unpaid rates. So this thing is horrendous. It's a shocker. And for some people that we've been talking to, there's some farmers that I know of who their annual levy in their rates for this particular thing will jump from just a touch over $30,000 per year to almost $100,000 per year. So every year they're going to have to pay $100,000 for this so-called emergency services and volunteer fund. So this is horrendous stuff. This is going to, and keep in mind that just for the farming sector, right now we're coming into drought conditions, and this is the sort of stuff that these filthy scum do. But it's even more than that, Martine, because every landholder in Victoria will be affected. So
it's not just farmers. You're right. From what I've looked at and what we've discussed, it's about 200% increase. And like you said, for farmers, some farmers that own obviously a lot of land because they're primary producers that feed the nation. They're the ones that are going to be hit the hardest. But then everyday Aussies that own a property are going to be somewhere between $2,000 to $4,000 as an average, from what I read. And it's going to obviously change regarding what the property value is worth. That's how it's been estimated, isn't it, Wade?
Absolutely. So it just fits into the normal rating schedule based on the value of your property. But the thing is, first of all, however bad this is right now, there is nothing to say, Martine, that they're not going to do this every year and bump up the price every year, which I put it to you is very, very well on the cards, given that for those of us who actually understand what this is about, this is a part of the strategy coming down from the World Economic Forum and the United Nations and the World Health Organization, who are the three primary terrorist organizations in the world, to make sure that you lose your ownership of private property. That's what this is about. It's about shutting down people's ability to own private property. And, we've had discussions about this before. And all through the so-called freedom movement when it kicked off in 2020, going right back to the history that I've got in everything since the early 1980s. This is about destroying your right to own property. It's about making it so unaffordable that you can't. And this fits into a range of things across the world that are happening that are very, very similar. And I was just got some information there a little while ago that there's a shire in Western Australia, I think it's called Coolgardie.
Coolgardie, still Kalgoorlie. Yeah.
So as I understand it, they've got people over there who do exploration and a bit of mining, these small operations. And they're going to raise their rates. And I'm not sure what system they rate these people. I don't know how it works. But the bottom line is their charges are going to go up 120%. Now, the deal is over there in this Coolgardie place. The Shire Council over there is saying, oh, well, our roads are falling apart. So it's very interesting that they're not looking, I can't see anything where they're talking about billing the big mining companies. They're just doing this to the small people. So anyway, I'll give you a bit of a go for a second. I've got plenty to say on this, mate.
Look, and you know what? This is where we see that by having these discussions, not only directly with each other, like state to state, and we do converse obviously quite regularly, but also the other people we speak to, and then I get messages from many others, and I was like compelled to do this because what I'm seeing is all this very underhanded, total, I don't even know if it's sleight of hand. It's a big bitch slap across the face, to be perfectly honest, as far as I'm concerned, because they're wanting to push farmers and primary producers and the backbone of this nation to the absolute wall, as you said, to remove their land, to remove their ability to have an income, and to remove industries that are vital to the security of this nation. It cannot be downgraded the level of seriousness of attack that's coming at all levels from not just everyday Australians, but particularly farmers, primary producers, people that without them, we will not have food on the table. And this is where, like with getting rid of the live sheep export, there are so many other industries that it affects. It's not just one thing. It's talking about small towns that will no longer be connected. Wade, what's been the feedback since then from people and farmers that you've been in touch with, obviously over the weekend? I mean, they must be absolutely outraged.
So we had last Friday week, there was a rally in Bendigo, which is north central Victoria, Australia, or basically central Victoria. The city of Bendigo is where the Victorian scumbag terrorist premier hangs out. That's where her office is, Jacinta Allen. And there was a rally there where a lot of people brought fire trucks. A lot of Country Fire Authority members brought fire trucks. I think there was about 11. And Billboard Battalion, we did, roving interviews and coverage of the event. And just for someone, for people who might know, I'm here. That's a 30-year long service medal for Country Fire Authority. I'm an ex-brigade captain, firefighter. I joined up to the Country Fire Authority when I was 15 years old. So this is very, very important to me. And so therefore we had that rally on Friday. A lot of people dropped off the fire trucks, shucked the keys for the fire trucks at Jacinta Allen's door. And this scumbag of a thing wasn't even there, this so-called Victorian Premier, every bit as big a low life as what Daniel Andrews still is. So people were starting to get angry, very angry, when this became aware that this was on the table. Then the next Tuesday, we all went to Melbourne, to Parliament House there in Spring Street in Melbourne. And there was another rally there. I reckon probably 250 people. A lot of them were volunteer CFA firefighters who, for the most part, are farmers. Yeah. So they were angry as anything. They were supposed to have that vote on the day, on that Tuesday. The government put it off until the Thursday, which I knew was a tactic just to make sure that there was nobody there when they actually handed down the vote. So now there's a massive big rally planned for tomorrow, which is Tuesday, the 20th of May. So this is happening. This is deadly serious stuff. The community outrage is monumental. This is outrage of biblical proportion. We've never seen, we have seen protests this big before, but to have something that's just popped up and overnight it's turned into something massive. So we've got so many people, Martine, heading to Parliament, Victorian Parliament tomorrow. We've got Country Fire Authority volunteer members who are now combining with United Firefighter Union members and many other people throughout the state. And I believe the plan is to take a heap of fire trucks in, and I think it's going to drain out a huge number of fire trucks into Melbourne. And who knows what happens from there, because people, they're ropeable, and quite justifiably ropeable, because in many cases more
than just justifiable, it's long overdue is what I feel like, Wade. Like, I feel like not only in Victoria, I have a family in Victoria, in some of these areas, and they were over here recently, and they told me that the way that Victoria still is after the COVID lockdowns and everything else has not at all recovered. They said it's so evident in communities, and now that to do this I feel like this is the rollout in Victoria to see what pushback you're going to get. And all I can say is that if all farmers around Australia aren't supporting and coming out in support of the Victorian farmers and the people of Victoria, then I would be disgusted. To be honest, like, I think that if we're not all in this, I think there's something wrong with us, because we should be uniting in all of these issues, because there's no separation here. We know that they're already starting to do these taxes in other ways in other communities, like you said, in Coolgardie. So that's something I might try and follow up, because I think that I'd like to get some guidance on that from WA itself, where Coolgardie Shire, or the Kalgoorlie Coolgardie Shire, stands on that, and why they're only applying it to a certain group. Wade, please make sure that you send me the information about tomorrow, so I can get that out on Edge Radio tonight. I would like to know who are the crossbenchers that came in to support this, because this is the thing that makes my blood boil. We know Labor are always on this agenda because they're following through the NWO and this WEF agenda, climate hysteria. Let's get rid of all animals because they fart and cause CO2 emissions, which is the most insane thinking of at any point. So are we talking about, obviously the Greens are the crossbenchers here, and I guess our friends, the Animal Justice Party?
So when we left last Tuesday, I'm aware that the government was trying to get some of the Greens and some of the animal justice people. So I'm not 100% sure, exactly what's what there. But I will be finding out, because tomorrow Billboard Battalion will be live streaming from Melbourne. We'll be heading off. We'll be getting going about 4 o'clock tomorrow morning, and we'll be live streaming for the day. We live streamed from there last Tuesday, and this is something that's so seriously. This is so critical that we've got people who are third and fourth generation farmer firefighters who are chucking their overalls and their helmets in a heap and saying you can take the CFA and stick it. So I mean, this is unprecedented.
So we've got some statement here about the fact that he's a third generation volley firefighter, and to think that these people not only risk their lives, they give up protecting their own home, their own families, to go and look after other people. I have friends that lots of people I know that are volunteer firefighters, and some of them literally by the time they get home from their swing on, they're utterly exhausted. They do have some time out, but then, we've had fires up here, especially at Lancelin. We've had fires up here at Lancelin that were just so out of control for a number of weeks. Those volunteer firefighters gave their absolute all for this. But, you've got Jacinta Allen, but she's not alone, because we've got Jacqueline Symes here, who's the Victoria Treasurer. So it seems like these females are a special breed over there, mate. What's going on? Because it seems like this all falls into this WEF agenda, and also those independent teals that are supported by Climate 200 funding that seem to all pop up everywhere thanks to Simon. How is it that the Shiers, I would not imagine that all the Shire people, that councillors, etc., are going to be too happy about this, because you're going to have farmers that are on these councils in Shires. What's been the feedback that you've known so far with the response from some of the local Shire councils?
So I know that some of the Shires are starting to push back. We're at a meeting the other day where they had one of the Shire CEOs, explaining exactly what was going on with this and how bad it was and how dangerous it was, etc., etc., etc. So the Shires themselves are not happy because they're the ones who have got to be they're got to be the ones that the executioners who turn up, to get the money. And I do know that many of the Shires are on board with the Agenda 21 stuff, which is about destroying people's farms and houses and what have you. But they're arcing up now and going fairly crook. So,
Good.
this is
that's well overdue too. Well overdue.
Well, this is they need to get their head out of their backsides and work out what the hell's going on. But I think, Martine, this is something, and this is a very important point to make. You know, Billboard Battalion, as you know, have been doing this for decades. Or I have. And then with Billboard Battalion, you know, we've got farmers now from all over Australia contacting us going, can you come to our area and do stories on what's happening here and what's happening there and what's happening somewhere else? Right from northern Queensland, the Territory, down to the Pilbara, southwest, Western Australia, around the centre of SA, Victoria, the whole lot. So what we're seeing now is the hardest demographic politically to shift are farmers. They're the worst to try and make them aware of anything. So what this is doing, this is mobilising so many farmers who never, ever even cared about politics. They couldn't have given a stuff about it. She's right, mate. I'm okay. You know, and we're talking about some of the bigger ones that have got a lot of money. And all of a sudden, they're going, what the hell's happening here? So, and you know, we were up at Beef Week in Rockhampton, Queensland there last year, talking to some of the biggest beef producers in Australia. And they thought that they were so rich and so powerful that nothing that could touch them, that they're secure. Well, I'm here to tell you, you're not. And so this now is starting to make some of those kind of farmers with those kind of attitudes go, holy hell, what's going on here? And now we're getting so many people saying we're following Billboard Battalion, we're following what you're doing, and they're coming up to speed. And, you know, the other day at Parliament House, like we had a lineup of people waiting to do interviews with us. So this is good in so much as, I'm not saying this levy thing's good, this is a disaster. But what it's doing is waking people up. It's, you know, the people who were the hardest in the world to wake up, the people who went through COVID with not a great deal of interruption to their life and business because of the fact they were farmers and they had exemptions from so much. But all of a sudden, they've just copped a king hit right between the eyes. And now they're starting to wake up and they're starting to get pretty damn nasty. So, you know, I think what we're seeing now is, you know, this is a new dawn. And if we look at things that we talk about, like the IHRs at the end of July that are coming in, it looks like they're coming in. The Australian government, who is basically made up of World Economic Forum people, is hell-bent on handing the power of our country and government over to literally a foreign terrorist organisation. So I say to our people in this country and our farmers, if you think it's bad now, you better put on a crash helmet and a bulletproof vest, because I'm telling you, this is just the start. This is what they've been saying for years. This is what you didn't want to know about. You didn't want to hear about. Well, now it's at your front door and it's about to go straight through your house.
There's a knock at the door for sure. And I don't think it's a nice knock. I think they're just going to bulldoze straight through it. The thing is that I can totally relate to what you're saying, my friend, because I have been saying for more than a decade to my farming family and communities, you need to stand up and wake up now, because you're going to lose your property, you're going to lose your industries, because for far too long there has been an orchestration at many levels. And you can see it now. You know that when you've got legislation that's overarching and it applies down from international, federal, state, and then local council level, and it all reads the same, and there's no accountability or anyone going, look, this doesn't quite fit with us. This doesn't fit with the way our community operates. There's no checking of any of this, that this is good for us in our nation. We know that we've been sold out hook, line, and sinker. I know that I mean, you know, obviously I'm sort of against offshore wind turbines, and obviously I'm not supporting in any way, shape, or form of land wind turbines either, because it's heavily subsidized and it's destruction of so much vital area of not only habitat as what's happening on the East Coast, but here in the West, it's vital agricultural land mostly that is getting smashed here. The thing is that we have been meeting with councils and through local stakeholders for over a year now, getting them to wake up and say this is going to be on your doorstep soon. They're starting to wake up now. So all of these issues tie in together, and that's why coming together as an alliance is so important. So that's why, we invited farmers to come and join us at Parliament House back in March, or actually the end of February, beginning of March. And so I can totally relate to what you're saying, Wade, because it's now a time to come and put any differences that were between us aside completely, so that we can come together and totally reclaim our rights as nationals and totally take back our rights to have our culture, our communities, and the industries that we want, and not be governed by foreign international corporations and policies.
Look, 100%, Martine, and I mean, this is like I say to so many people, we're at the 59th minute of the 11th hour here. This is almost over. We've almost lost, and we get so many people who say, "Oh, yes, no, we're going to win," and so how exactly? Explain to me how that's going to happen. Hey, we're getting smashed at everything. We've seen. With the freedom movement, you couldn't organise the freedom organisers, they couldn't organise anything to get them to actually come together and fight as one. There's two main things here, two main elements with anything, whether it's freedom people, whether it's farmers, whatever it is. Number one, identify what the threat is. Yes. Number two, identify what you need to do to kill it. That's what it takes. And then, from there on in, it has to be a coordinated effort. It has to be an effort where there is structure, there is some leadership, the whole deal. So what we're seeing now with the farming side of things, that is now starting to unfold a bit, because as you know, like we've been doing this for a long time. I've copped flack from pillar to post. But everyone. The Victorian Farmers Federation now are starting a small bit to work with me. So awesome. The new VFF president, Brett Hosking, I've known Brett for a long time. He said he's going to take the VFF in a different direction. And I must say I'm rather pleased with the interactions we've had so far with Brett and with the executive from the VFF. We've got
That's
some of them now.
News. I'm so glad to hear that, Wade. Glad to hear that.
This is big, because we've got a lot of the older people in the branches now who are following us, have been for a while, and are starting to say, okay, we're seeing things happen like you've said, Wade, and the things you warned us about 10 years ago, 15 years ago are now unfolding. So we're seeing a change, which is great. We're dealing with farmers all over Australia, from what's happening to the beef industry up in Northern Australia, all the land rights crap. We've got the fire ants, southeast Queensland. They murdered all the bees. The Department of Scumbags and Parasites came in and murdered all the bees. We've got the sheep who they've banned out of WA, out of I think it's Bunbury over there, and that affects the entire Australian sheep industry. So now, I've been putting this together for a long time. We've got farmers in South Australia now contacting us going, we're being wiped out with the dairy industry here. And this has happened here. The Northern Victorian dairy industry is virtually dead. So these things are orchestrated attacks. And now I'm very, very pleased to see that at this late in the game, at least they're starting to take notice. And I think now this is where the crunch comes. We've known, and you mentioned before, Martine, that we've seen governments putting stuff in place for a long time, which at the time they painted it as, oh, nothing to see here. It's just a couple of changes to this act, a couple of amendments to the Public Health and Wellbeing Act in Victoria, a couple of amendments to the Biosecurity Act. Now, this stuff is massive. And what I suspect is going to happen is last December, the federal parasites tried to get across the line the misinformation, disinformation bill in Canberra, and they lost only by a couple of crossbenchers. Now, with the new makeup of the Australian Parliament, I believe they will hit that probably in July, the minute Parliament comes back, and reintroduce that stuff and get that over the line. So all of a sudden, that in conjunction with laws in Victoria about banning protesting, about all the stuff that they're doing, all the surveillance, all the new pandemic crap they're going to bring in to lock you down. I am very, very concerned that that we're done. And I know that there's many people sit there and go, oh, well, you've got to be positive. And, you know, I heard one brain dead half-wit idiot one day there a little while ago saying, oh, you know, my job is to make sure people don't lose hope or hopelessness or whatever the cretin said. But at the end of the day, you've got to be real. And as I continually say, Martine, if you're going to have hopelessness, then what has led up to that? And like I say, you know, I see some, you know, for many, many years, you look at the photos of the Jews in Auschwitz getting off the trains there before they gassed them, and you think, well, that's hopelessness, mate. And we're going towards that point, make no mistake. The question is, what happened before that? How come they allowed that to get to that point? Now, we're seeing history repeating right now, where there's so many people in this country do not want to wake up. They don't want to know about it. And one of the biggest problems we have is the people that are awake refuse to organise themselves. So we are in downtown Dirtville, and there's people to blame for that. There's things that have happened, and right now, at the last second, I think people, you better damn well have a real serious reinvestment of your brain and understand we've almost done. This is nearly over. This is nearly the point of no return. So we need to come together.
I recently interviewed, we call him Farmer Kev. He's I think you may have met him in your travels. I'm pretty sure you've met from West Australia. He's a farmer and been doing, involved in that since he was a wee lad. And he said that when he turned up to Parliament House, he said that he's been wanting this for a long time now to come together. You said previously it's about, identifying what the issue is and identifying who the enemy is and how to rectify that. And so it's, it's like identifying who's the enemy. Well, it's foreign corporations and foreign entities that have come in and imposed legislation and have written the legislation, and it's been implemented by our federal government. It's been implemented at a state level, and now it's being implemented this way. So the only remedy is by uniting together. It's as simple as that. I keep coming back to that. It's like, because day by day I do see people waking up, but like you said, we're already here. We're in the last second of this game, and this is what Farmer Kev has said. He's like, he wants to just see people uniting across the board, all of these issues, so that we should be holding this entire government liable, not accountable, liable for the decimation of our industries, our families, our communities, and it's like no one holds them accountable, but holding them liable for what's going to happen in the future. And this is where pushing back together has so much power. And this was demonstrated, definitely, because when you were at Parliament House, they changed the date so they wouldn't have a riot on their hands. That says right there that people have the power. And if people could just only get enough big kahunas to get up there and push back. I've been saying this for a long time. Like, why are farmers not out there? I've spoken to this, like, oh, well, they didn't want to cause drama and have someone's death on their hands because, I was like, what? It's like, wait a second, you can come together and orchestrate yourselves to have a massive impact, because in Western Australia, they changed all the boundaries of our electoral divisions, which meant that the power all went back to the city. Now, city people, why would they know that? Country people were aware of it. Too late. We're already in the minority. So how's the minority going to overthrow the majority? Well, there is a way. It's called banding together. And this is where I keep saying over and over again, united, we will win this. Divided, we will fall. It's as simple as that. We've already identified what the enemy is. We already know what we need to do. Let's come together, get your A into gear, and stop making excuses why you're not going to do it. Where's the action here? This is why, this whole freedom movement for so long was led by women, because women are forward thinkers and they can see what's going on in the future. And so for a long time, women have been the ones out there as warriors leading the way. And now it's taken a long time for the males, yourself and a number excluded in that. But it's been a long time for the males to stand up and go, no, we're going to fight for our families, we're going to fight for our communities and fight for everything that we need to keep alive in this nation. It's been a long time coming, Wade. Like, I've just been sitting here going, today? Is it going to be today? Is it today? Is it going to happen yet? Because at some point, you can't do this alone. And there's only so much that groups can do individually, but when we come together, that's what happens. They change. When we turned up to Parliament House to do our inquiry testimonials, they cancelled it because we were united.
And
it says it all.
And that's the thing that they're scared of the most. We don't have to be violent. There is no need at all to be violent.
No.
There is a need to be intelligent, because that's how we turn this around. The information is our weapon. Knowledge and empowering people with knowledge and organisation, that's our weapon, because they're only a tiny handful, but they bluff everybody. And, they've got so many other people they send out into the community to run interference, to make sure that we don't get knowledge and don't get organised. So, this, whether people like it or not, Martine, this is a military operation, and it has to be run like a military operation. Yeah. And the most important thing is our information and tactics and strategies. But like I said before, it has to be the right ones. And we've experienced all the dumb stuff, all the division, all the people who are just wandering off into the whatever, thinking they're just going to go and do their own stupid thing. Well, if you want to lose and you want to sacrifice your kids and your grandkids, knock yourself out. Don't be a part of an organised structure. Go and do your airy-fairy crap or whatever it is, but know that you're throwing everything away. And the time's coming where they'll slam the gate on us and it'll be over, exactly the same as the Jews in the camps in Germany.
It applies to so many different things, Wade, this mentality of thinking that they've got the upper hand and so quickly that you can turn something and flip it on itself, because we are the majority. The thing is that we do have power, and you said it in such a way that can be quite clearly comprehended by people. It's like, it's by doing it through intelligence and good organizations. The one thing that has let them down, as you said, are the gatekeepers. There have been people put in place to gatekeep, to stop movements from going to its full evolution, so that they'll be just thwarted at this level. It's like they'll have an impact, but not revolutionary. They'll have an impact, but not this level. You and I have spoke about this before, and I think that we can call it for what it is, that we have seen that relentlessly over the last 5 years, that there have been people that have gatekept certain movements and tried to come in and inhibit the success of those.
Yes, absolutely. And we could probably run off half a dozen examples between you and me in a heartbeat.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, like, as I said, this is a case now. People need to have a reassessment, and what we need is anybody who is a leader or an influencer or whatever, whether it's the freedom movement for whatever the hell that even is, or agricultural areas, or like I've been at war with the trade union movement the last 20 years about actually representing their members, the people who pay them their subs. They're sitting there and they're watching their jobs be destroyed. They're watching everything being wiped out and smashed to pieces, and they're helping them to wipe them out. They're, you know, some of these are card-carrying members of the Communist Party. Well, they're in the business of destroying our country. So, you know, and on that token there, you know, I heard an interview with this bloke from this Coolgardie joint over there where you lot come from. And he's saying, oh, you know, we need to get more money to fix this and that. Well, here's the thing, Shiers and governments. Since the signing of the Lima Agreement, they have systematically destroyed our industries. They've systematically destroyed our ability to create wealth and make money. And now these low-life scum are coming along saying, well, we're going to have to put the rates up to pay for things. They deliberately have killed our ability to make money and pay for them. And now they're using that. That's the thing they've done over, as I said, 40 odd years. They've done that now. That's their excuse to wipe people out by saying, oh, well, we've got to get this money in to run the Shire or to run the state government. People need to understand they've deliberately done that. Yes. That has been specifically and deliberately done to get us to this point right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the thing that we need to get across to people that may be viewing this and people that need to have a deeper comprehension of how the dots join with this is that with the Lima Agreement, it was about taking away manufacturing and industries, and then how it was implemented in each nation was slightly different. So the thing is, in Australia, they're trying to push us to this net zero insanity. And this is a huge underpinning of where this sits, not only with the climate hysteria, but actually this swindle of green renewables, greenwashing, that's not a reliable baseload energy. So when you don't have baseload energy, you cannot have heavy industry and manufacturing. I can't say it enough. I had this conversation so many times with a senator from South Australia when I was in Parliament, and that individual was completely on board and said, you're absolutely right, net zero is insane. And yet here we are, and they've got a new Liberal leader, and they are all for net zero and climate change hysteria. So it's really, really at a point now, all of you in Australia, farmers in your cities, your regional areas, you need to get up off your back, science, and not only reach out to the likes of Wade at Billboard Vitalian, but you need to connect with your own communities there and start to wake up, speak up, and stop putting up with this absolute garbage. We're being treated like we don't belong in this nation, that this is not our nation. It's absolutely up for sale, that we are living under foreign policies already. And if we don't stand up now, as you've said, Wade, we are a nation lost.
Absolutely. And that is now so blatantly obvious. So where this is, you know, a bit of a transition now. We're starting to see communities come on board with what we're talking about and have been for many years. So we expect to see a huge flood of fire trucks and protesters coming into Melbourne tomorrow. I'm not sure how that's all going to go and work. I know there's a lot of happening now with a lot of the organisers and VicPol to work out strategies and logistics and all that kind of stuff. I know that when we had the plug the pipe protests in Melbourne there, I worked with a lot of Victoria Police, and they were terrific. They were great.
Yeah.
And, the people who we've worked with, the cops we've worked with before with Billboard Battalion have really, really been terrific. And I know there's a lot of people who've got some really bad experiences with cops, and I totally get that, and I respect that, and I'm not trying to play that down. But we need to work together with our cops. And I talk to a lot of them, and so many of them are on our side. They now know what's going on. A lot of them watch what Billboard Battalion does and says for the truth, just the hard-hitting facts of where it is. So I think, we've done a lot of the hard work, and we're starting to see some of the fruits of that. Now it's a case of, can we get everybody else to just operate together, just observe the facts and see what is going on, and then fight back against this government and these international treaties that they're signing us up to, because many of the enemies are now in our governments. Many of the people working for these international terrorist organisations are the Prime Minister. They are the leader of the opposition. And that goes for all the federal and state governments. We haven't got time to get into the results of the election.
Mate, I think that would be a whole episode just itself for the level of corruption. I mean, I think Dictator Dan outlined and illustrated that so perfectly with flying in his militia police force during COVID lockdown. I mean, that was so illustrated clearly what they were capable of doing when they were given free rein. Aussies, it's time to stand up. Wade, we are with you 100%. I think we should be having some more dialogue about how we can bring this further out to other states, not only just here in Western Australia, but throughout all of our other states, and come together to organise statewide and Australia-wide coming out against all of this, because I think that all of these issues tie together, and it's time to make that stand and do it now. We can't put this on the back burner any further.
Well, look, you're 100% right, Martine. And I mean, I must say that I'm a little bit keen. Last couple of days ago, I did a live with a number of international farmers and lobbyists, awesome. And we're looking like trying to put something together where I can work with other farmers from overseas. And, maybe say, right, this is how Billboard Battalion's doing it. This is what I think is the way to go. And we're starting to get some good things starting to happen there. And as I said, across Australia now with farmers coming to BB, and we've been doing this, as I said, since the early 1980s. So hopefully we can pull something out of the hat in time.
Wade will be there with you in spirit tomorrow, sending out big love and support to everyone in Victoria. I'll be watching to see your live casts, as well as sending through the link through Edge Radio Australia. Thank you for joining me on Martinis Eco and Country Bites tonight. Wishing you all the best, my friend. We're in this together, and we will continue this journey.
Fantastic. And thanks very much, Martine. And we'll definitely keep in touch, mate. We'll definitely keep this rolling. You'll be able to see on Billboard Battalion the lives and stuff that we do tomorrow. It's going to be a really big day. It's going to be very, very serious in Victoria's history and Australia's history. We're going to see unprecedented action taken against this stuff. So, I hate the term watch this space, but I know that there's a lot of stuff going to happen that people might be a little bit surprised about. So thanks very much, Martine. I very much appreciate your time, mate. And everybody who's watching, we really are in all this together, and we mean in the crap together. So we need to come together and fight our way out of this. And we do have the capacity to do it, but we need to haul some backside really fast and get very serious about what we're doing.
As we've just said, we're going to fight this united, or divided will fall. So we got to unite. And thank you again, Wade. All the best tomorrow, my friend. Thank you.
Thanks, Martine.